Don Polito was the most trusted expert in mid-century analog circuitry and vacuum tube technologies in the Pittsburgh area. Gone now 4 years, Don has not been replaced. Don was famously, and with his brothers as colleagues, proprietor of Don's organ service and Phil's TV and radio repair. Don credited his technical background to his father, the late Phil Polito, and to collaboration with his brothers. Especially, he was revered as the region's most notable technician in terms of diagnosis and service of the Hammond tone wheel generator organ and Leslie rotating speaker, instruments known for their complexity and nuance. But as admired as Don was for his technical acumen, he was an inspired performer and keyboard artist, truly in his element at the bench of the Hammond B3 organ. He had a devoted following in live performance venues where he played solo organ and in ensemble. I was referred to Don in year 2011 by Chris Celadonia, Don's peer Hammond technician whom I had learned to trust intensely. Don and I became good acquaintances with Chris's help. Each time Don visited my studio to service our Hammond, Don showed intense interest in understanding digital audio recording, a world largely new since Don had trained in electronics. On the day these videos were recorded, Don was making his usual Hammond service call at my place. It was 2019, February 22nd. But these videos occurred, as it happened, because Don and I got a little sidetracked. Don played in a totally unrehearsed and impromptu way as I showed him how I normally track B3, meaning microphone placement, preamp selection, and so on. Don delighted in what was a new world for him of playing the Hammond while we created his headphone mix. Don took particular thrill, it seemed, in the range of reverbs we applied to the multiple Leslie microphones. These recordings are not perfect. There was premature clipping that Don traced to a rectifier tube failure, and Don had arrived totally unrehearsed, again with the plan of making a Hammond service call rather than a recording session. But any musician or layperson will see and hear two things: Don's artistic mastery at the dual keyboard and Don investing his heart as he performed. In this way, Don was the rare example of a true technocrat and diagnostician, but also very much a feeling artist. Don was the rare example of the right and left brain coming together in excellence. I think Don loved making the recordings you'll hear in these videos, and he seemed quite keen as I filmed him playing the Hammond. He and I agreed that his performances belonged on YouTube for the purpose of educating younger players about the possibilities of this late 20th century Hammond-Leslie combination. My deep regret is that Don would soon fall ill after that day and quickly be deep in the throes of an oncology patient. I so wish that he and I had been able to film and record again. But the fact that Don's playing here is so beautiful and visibly charismatic, even unrehearsed, makes these moments even more meaningful now. As I finish up this series in 2025, almost 6 years after Don was filmed and recorded in my studio, it's clear to me now more than ever how much other players will find rich education in watching and hearing Don Polito at the B3. This is at once true for expert keyboardists or players early in their development and no matter where they might be in the world. This is so much the case that others who knew Don and who were in my orbit wanted to go on record to express their admiration and affection for Don Polito. The series therefore now contains interviews with music pros who had a range of relationships with Don. These testimonial interviews were made in late 2024 and early 2025. Interviews were graciously offered by a fascinating range of professionals, from peer Hammond tech Chris Celadonia, without whom I'd never even have known Don, to other collaborators and studio owners who relied not only upon Don's expertise as Hammond tech, but as problem solver of all things analog electronics. To a person, and as you will see, they speak to Don's intense capacity as a technician, but also revel in his generosity as he shared his knowledge. They recall his beauty as a musician and simply as a man they felt close to and miss now that Don has left us. Don died in September 2020, 18 months after his Hammond performances included here were filmed. Don was 71. The Pittsburgh musician community is grateful to Mrs. Polito and to the Polito family for wanting to share these memories of Don Polito, a man eminently expert in all things Hammond.